In the fall of 2009, I set out on a hike in Yosemite National Park, eager to experience the beauty of one of America's most iconic wilderness areas. Spanning over 1,200 square miles of pristine California backcountry, Yosemite had long been a haven for tourists and adventurers alike. I had read about its dramatic landscapes, towering granite cliffs, ancient giant sequoias, and roaring waterfalls that cascaded down the mountainsides. Among these wonders was Grouse Lake, a serene yet haunting spot nestled deep within the park, a place wrapped in eerie legends. It was there, in the calm of September, that my journey would take an unexpected and terrifying turn. As a lawyer in my early 30s, I was used to the structured, fast-paced life of the city. Nature had always been my escape, and Yosemite, with its rugged beauty and vast wilderness, had been calling to me for years. After months of stress and long hours at work, I finally carved out the time to visit, eager to disappear into the silence of the mountains. On that particular day, I hiked along the trail leading to Grouse Lake. The trek was relatively easy, and I made good time as the midday sun filtered through the trees. While Yosemite was famous for landmarks like El Capitan, Half Dome, and its towering sequoias, Grouse Lake had a quieter reputation. It didn't draw as many visitors, a hidden gem, untouched and secluded. That sense of solitude was exactly what I had been looking for. When I reached the lake, it was just as peaceful as I had imagined. A cool breeze rustled the leaves, and the only sounds were the distant calls of birds. I set my pack down by the shore and decided to rest for a while. The hike had been easier than I expected, but exhaustion from city life was catching up with me. Lying back on the soft earth, I let the weight of work and responsibility drift away. Within minutes, I was asleep. But that peace didn't last. I woke suddenly, my senses on high alert, as an inexplicable unease settled over me. At first, it was just a vague discomfort, a heaviness in the air that I couldn't quite explain. I tried to shake it off, but something felt wrong. Then I heard the scream. It wasn't the cry of an animal, nor was it entirely human. It was something in between, an eerie, blood-curdling wail that echoed off the cliffs surrounding the lake. My pulse hammered in my chest as I sat up, scanning the trees. But there was nothing. That's when I felt it, an overwhelming sensation of being watched. A chill crawled over my skin, my instincts screaming that I wasn't alone. Slowly, I turned. And I saw him. Just a few feet away, at the edge of the trees, stood a boy. At first, I thought he was just another hiker, maybe a local. But as I focused on his features, my breath caught. His skin was dark and smooth, his clothes simple yet oddly old-fashioned. Something about him was off. I took a hesitant step forward, about to speak, when I noticed it. His form shimmered, faintly translucent, as if he weren't entirely part of this world. That's when I realized the truth. I wasn't looking at a living boy. I was looking at a ghost. The fear that surged through me was primal, instinctual. Every part of me screamed to run, to put as much distance as possible between myself and this unexplainable presence. But I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the spot, my body frozen in horror as I stared at the ghostly boy before me. He didn't move. His dark eyes locked onto mine, filled with an expression both sorrowful and intense. There was something in his gaze, something pleading, as if he desperately needed something from me. But I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. The silence between us was suffocating, thick with a weight I couldn't shake. Then, without warning, he spoke. "Come back," he said. His voice was soft yet unnervingly clear, carrying an unsettling tone that sent a chill straight through me. The words echoed in my head, as if they had been spoken directly into my mind. My breath quickened. A jolt of panic shot through me, and I stumbled backward, my body finally breaking free from its paralysis. Every instinct urged me to flee, to get away from this spectral figure before it was too late. Without a second thought, I turned and ran. I sprinted down the trail, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. My footsteps pounded against the earth in a frantic rhythm, but even as I ran, I heard it again. Come back. The voice was fainter this time, but unmistakable. Terror surged through me, pushing me faster. The thick forest blurred past me, the towering trees closing in like silent watchers. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was behind me, lurking just beyond my vision, waiting. I didn't stop running until I reached a clearing. The familiar sight of the trailhead finally came into view, and I collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. My chest heaved as I struggled to catch my breath, my whole body trembling. I forced myself to look back, half expecting to see the boy standing at the edge of the trees. But the forest was still. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves in the wind and the distant cry of a bird. No ghost. No voice. I never returned to Grouse Lake. But I later learned that my encounter wasn't the first strange event reported in that area. Yosemite National Park, with all its breathtaking beauty, has a long history of ghostly legends. In 1857, Gahan Clark, America's first park ranger, wrote about hearing a disturbing wail while exploring the wilderness, an eerie sound that had haunted me just years earlier. When he asked the local Miwok tribe about it, they told him it wasn't an animal. It was the wail of a spirit, the spirit of a young boy who had drowned in Grouse Lake long ago. According to legend, anyone who ventured too close risked being pulled under the water by the vengeful ghost. The boy had drowned while playing near the lake, and his spirit had never found peace. Over the years, others who hiked near Grouse Lake reported the same unsettling feeling, the same whispers in the wind. For me, the encounter remains an unsolved mystery, a moment forever etched in my memory. Yosemite's towering cliffs and serene lakes would always be breathtaking, but they would never again feel safe. Whether what I saw was real or a trick of the mind, I'll never know. But one thing is certain, no matter how much time passes, I will never forget that ghostly figure, the chilling call to come back, and the overwhelming sense that some legends are better left undisturbed. If you love true creepy forest stories and true ghost stories, subscribe now. Don't miss our spine-chilling uploads every week. Like, comment, and join us for more terrifying tales. On August 21, 2010, my family and I set out on a long-awaited vacation, eager to soak in the sights and serenity of California. Our destination was Yosemite National Park, a place renowned for its awe-inspiring granite cliffs, towering sequoias, and tranquil lakes. We were excited for the adventure ahead, but our journey would soon take a strange and unexpected turn on Highway 99, a road that runs along the western edge of the park, an area rich in both natural beauty and hidden mysteries. We had been driving for hours, admiring the breathtaking views the highway had to offer. The kids excitedly pointed out deer grazing in the fields, and we adults chatted about our plans for the next few days. The warm summer air filled the car, and the sun cast long shadows across the rolling landscape. Everything felt normal, peaceful even, until I noticed something strange in the sky. At first, I thought it was just a distant plane or maybe a helicopter, but the longer I watched, the more I realized it was unlike anything I had ever seen. The object hovered above the trees, its shape completely unfamiliar. It wasn't a traditional aircraft, nor did it resemble any known drone. It seemed to defy the laws of physics, suspended in the air as if by some invisible force. My eyes widened in disbelief. "What is that?" I muttered under my breath, not quite trusting what I was seeing. My husband, who had been focused on the road, noticed my sudden change in attention and followed my gaze. His grip on the wheel tightened when he, too, saw the strange object hanging in the sky. The kids, intrigued and slightly unnerved, pressed their faces against the windows to get a better look. The object had a triangular shape, its sharp, angular edges giving it a sleek, futuristic appearance. But it didn't move like any plane we'd ever seen. It hovered, swayed, then darted erratically from one position to another, as though it was struggling to maintain control. "Is that a UFO?" my husband asked, his voice laced with curiosity and unease. "I don't know," I whispered. "But it's not like anything I've ever seen before." Without hesitation, we pulled over to the side of the highway, needing a clearer view. Stepping out of the car, we kept our eyes locked on the object. It hovered silently above the treetops, its shape shimmering in the sunlight, casting an eerie shadow below. The entire moment felt surreal, like we had stepped into a science fiction film. We stood there, frozen in stunned silence, watching as the craft continued its erratic movements. It darted back and forth with impossible agility, unlike any human-made aircraft. And yet, it made no sound, no hum of an engine, no whir of rotors. Nothing but an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustling of the wind through the trees. At first, we were mesmerized. But as we watched, a slow, creeping sense of unease settled over us. Something about this didn't feel right. Suddenly, the craft lost control. It tipped to one side, and before any of us could react, it plummeted from the sky, crashing into the hill just beyond the tree line. The sound was deafening, a sharp, metallic thud that echoed across the valley. We froze, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. The object had crashed so suddenly, so swiftly, that it almost felt intentional, as if it had been brought down on purpose. "We need to call someone," my husband said urgently. Without hesitation, we jumped back into the car and sped toward the crash site. But as we arrived, we saw that the area was already swarming with military personnel. Helicopters hovered above, their rotors slicing through the air as they landed near the wreckage. Large trucks, ambulances, and heavily armed soldiers moved quickly, setting up a secure perimeter around the crash. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment, prepared long before the object had even fallen. Before sunset, a full-scale operation was underway. The military had complete control of the scene, their movements coordinated and precise. We stood at a safe distance, watching in stunned silence. The initial curiosity that had drawn us here was slowly giving way to an unsettling realization: whatever had crashed, we weren't meant to know about it. The next day, unable to shake the need for answers, we returned to the site. But what we found, or rather, what we didn't find, left us speechless. Everything was gone. The wreckage, the debris, even the signs of impact, erased. The ground where the craft had fallen looked completely undisturbed, as if nothing had ever happened. No scorched earth, no shattered metal, no evidence of fire or destruction. There weren't even any broken tree branches. It was as though the crash had never taken place. We stood there in disbelief. We had seen it happen. We had heard the impact, seen the smoke rising from the hillside. And yet, now, there was nothing. As we tried to make sense of it all, a few private investigators arrived, also hoping to uncover the truth. But like us, they found only emptiness. The military had been here, that much was clear, but they had erased all traces of their involvement. No one could explain how an entire crash site could be wiped clean overnight. It was as if the event had been deliberately erased from history. Speculation ran wild. Some believed the object we had seen wasn't human-made at all, but something beyond our understanding. Others suspected it was a classified military experiment, a craft powered by technology far more advanced than anything the public knew about. The way it hovered silently, the way it moved with impossible agility, suggested the use of magnetic levitation or some other groundbreaking propulsion system. Yosemite National Park has always been shrouded in mystery. Several military installations exist nearby, including Beale Air Force Base and the China Lake Naval Air Weapons Station, both known for testing top-secret aircraft. These facilities have long been associated with cutting-edge experiments, including stealth technology and gravity-defying flight systems. The speed with which the military responded to the crash only strengthened the theory that we had accidentally witnessed something highly classified, perhaps even something not of this world. And Yosemite's history with secret military activity goes back even further. During World War II, the U.S. Navy took over the historic Ahwahnee Hotel, turning it into a psychiatric hospital for soldiers recovering from the trauma of war. But instead of healing, many patients reported bizarre, unsettling experiences, apparitions, disembodied voices, shadows moving through the trees at night. The program was quietly shut down after only a few months. That eerie history, combined with what we had seen that day, left us with more questions than answers. Had we stumbled upon a top-secret test flight? An extraterrestrial craft? Or something else entirely? Whatever the truth was, one thing became clear: we weren't supposed to see it. And someone had gone to great lengths to make sure no one else ever would. Love true ghost stories, Reddit and eerie encounters? Tune into our Paranormal Stories podcast for spine-chilling tales. Subscribe, like, and join us for weekly supernatural mysteries. On July 9, 1995, I found myself standing in the heart of Yosemite National Park, a place of towering cliffs, ancient trees, and breathtaking views that had drawn visitors from all over the world. It was a much-anticipated trip with my girlfriend, Jean Hassel, a 37-year-old businesswoman from Massachusetts. The day was perfect, the sun shining, the air crisp, and the sky a brilliant shade of blue. Our destination was Glacier Point, one of the most spectacular viewpoints in the park, where the wilderness stretched endlessly before us. As we made our way along the winding road, we decided to pull over for a quick stop to stretch our legs and take in the scenery. It was supposed to be just a short break, a chance to breathe in the fresh mountain air before continuing our drive. We had no idea that this seemingly innocent stop would change everything. Being an avid birdwatcher, I was eager to capture a photograph of a bird I had spotted perched on a nearby branch. Jean, always supportive, followed closely behind as I moved a short distance into the forest, adjusting my camera for the perfect shot. We had no intention of separating. We were simply enjoying the moment together. But then, something strange happened. I turned around, excitement in my eyes, ready to share the moment with Jean, but she wasn't there. At first, I assumed she had wandered off slightly, maybe stepping off the trail to admire the view. It was easy to lose sight of someone in Yosemite, with its towering trees and uneven terrain. I called her name, expecting a response from just beyond the trees. But there was nothing. No voice. No movement. No sign of her at all. A cold wave of anxiety washed over me. I walked back to where we had last stood together, calling out again, louder this time. Still, no answer. 15 minutes passed. Worry turned into panic. I retraced my steps, searching every possible direction she could have gone. Had she taken a wrong turn? Slipped and fallen somewhere out of sight? But there were no footprints, no broken branches, nothing to indicate where she had gone. It was as if she had simply disappeared. Growing more frantic, I sought out park rangers and nearby hikers, explaining the situation. I described Jean in detail, hoping someone had seen her. But no one had. No one had even heard anything unusual. It was as if she had been swallowed by the wilderness itself. Within 45 minutes, a full-scale search began. Rangers, park employees, and volunteers spread out, calling her name as they combed through the dense forest. Soon, helicopters were deployed, scanning the vast landscape from above. The search expanded to cover a 40-square-mile radius, with teams tirelessly working to find any trace of her. But there was nothing. As the hours stretched on, daylight began to fade. The frantic search, once full of hope, turned into a painful, agonizing wait. Eventually, the team had no choice but to call off the search for the night. Jean was gone. The search continued the next day, and for many days after. Rangers, volunteers, even helicopters scoured the vast expanse of Yosemite, but despite their relentless efforts, she was nowhere to be found. The park's rugged terrain and dense forests made the search painstakingly difficult. There was no sign of a struggle, no tracks, no clues to suggest where she had gone. It was as if she had simply vanished into the wilderness. For 2 agonizing months, I waited in despair, clinging to the hope that she might still be found. Her disappearance baffled everyone. No one could explain how or why she had gone missing, and the authorities had no answers. Then, In early September, a gruesome discovery was made. Jean's body was found at Briar Creek, a remote and treacherous part of the park, far from any established trails or tourist areas. Only experienced hikers would venture there, yet somehow, that's where she ended up. The mystery deepened. How had she reached such an isolated place? There were no signs that she had followed any known paths leading to the creek. The questions kept piling up. How had she gotten so far from where I had last seen her? Why had no one noticed her disappearance in that brief moment we were separated? It seemed impossible that she could have wandered such a great distance unnoticed, without anyone hearing her calls for help. And yet, there she was, found in an area so secluded that even seasoned hikers rarely passed through. The circumstances surrounding her death only made things more unsettling. Was it a tragic accident? Or was something far more sinister at play? Jean wasn't the only strange disappearance in Yosemite National Park. Over the years, there have been other reports, stories of visitors who vanished without a trace, their cases left unsolved. The pattern of these disappearances has led many to question whether something unnatural lurks in the vast wilderness of the park, something beyond human understanding. Some Native American tribes speak of the Puno wind, a malevolent spirit said to haunt Yosemite's misty valleys and waterfalls. According to legend, this spirit lures people off the trails, drawing them into the thick fog where they are never seen again. The Puno wind is believed to be a powerful, otherworldly force, an entity that preys on those who wander too far from safety. The legend is rarely spoken of, even among the local tribes, but those who know of it warn against venturing too close to certain parts of the park, especially near the waterfalls, where the mist is thick and the air feels heavy with something unexplainable. It is said that once the Puno wind takes hold of you, there is no escape. The mystery surrounding Jean's disappearance, along with so many others in Yosemite, has only fueled speculation about what truly lies hidden in the depths of the park. Whether it's an ancient supernatural force, something far more sinister, or simply the perilous nature of the wilderness itself, there are those who believe that Yosemite holds secrets that may never be uncovered. Jean's story remains a tragic reminder of just how unpredictable and enigmatic this place can be, a land of breathtaking beauty, but also one where the boundary between the known and the unknown feels disturbingly thin. If you love Scary Podcast's True Stories, don't miss our Scary True Stories compilation. Subscribe for spine-chilling tales, like the video, and join us for weekly paranormal encounters. In February 2013, my friend and I found ourselves in a moment we would never forget while visiting Yosemite National Park. After a long day of hiking, we were making our way back to the car, a sense of accomplishment washing over us. The crisp mountain air bit at our faces as we approached the vehicle, parked near the edge of the park. The sun had already set, casting long shadows across the landscape, and the evening was peaceful, until a sudden, eerie sound shattered the stillness. A loud, screeching noise echoed through the sky, unlike anything I had ever heard before. My heart pounded as I looked up, unease creeping in. What I saw took my breath away. Soaring above us was a creature so strange, so terrifying, it didn't seem real. It looked like a monstrous hybrid, half man, half lizard. Its scales glistened under the fading light, its wings stretching wide, far larger than any birds I had ever seen. The creature's body was muscular, and its head was unmistakably reptilian, with glowing eyes that pierced the sky. I stood frozen, unable to look away from it. To my horror, it seemed to notice us. With an unsettling screech, the creature swooped through the air, heading straight toward us. Panic surged through me as I took a step back, terror flooding my veins. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the creature veered off at the last second. It twisted in the air, wings flapping powerfully, and with one final, horrifying screech, it disappeared into the distant peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains. My friend and I were left standing there, shaking, in disbelief. Our minds raced, struggling to make sense of what had just happened. Was it a hallucination? A trick of the light? Or had we truly seen something we couldn't explain? We quickly gathered our bearings and sought out other park visitors, desperate to make sense of the nightmare we just witnessed. When we spoke to others nearby, we were stunned to hear that we weren't alone. Several people had seen similar creatures flying in the area over the past few days. Some described them as strange flying reptiles, others as monstrous winged beings, but the stories were all eerily consistent. We weren't imagining things, we had seen something extraordinary. The creature we saw, according to researchers, was identified as a pterodactylus, an ancient flying reptile thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago. But what was it doing in Yosemite? Our terrifying experience sparked a troubling thought: were these creatures connected to the unexplained disappearances that had occurred in the park over the years? Some theorized that the creature wasn't just a passive observer but a predator, hiding in the park's remote areas, waiting for the right moment to strike. Reports began to surface suggesting that the creature might drag its victims several feet on the ground before lifting them into the air. It was believed that the creature carried them deep into the rugged, inaccessible regions of the Sierra Nevada mountains, where no one would ever find them. Could it be that the countless disappearances in Yosemite over the years were somehow connected to these creatures? Hidden away in the high reaches of the park, preying on the unsuspecting? The idea of ancient creatures returning from extinction to haunt the wilderness of Yosemite was a chilling thought, one that seemed almost too incredible to believe. But after what we saw, and hearing from others who had witnessed similar sightings, unsettling questions began to form in my mind about the true nature of the park. Was the beauty of Yosemite hiding a darker secret? And was the creature we encountered just the beginning of something far more sinister? As the mystery deepened, one thing became clear to me: our experience wasn't an isolated incident. The terrifying creature we saw was just a part of an even larger enigma that seems to continue to haunt the wilds of Yosemite National Park. In 1995, my family and I set out for a peaceful hike through the beautiful and rugged landscapes of Yosemite National Park. Among us was me, Christy, a young girl whose curiosity about the natural world matched my sense of adventure. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden hues across the towering granite cliffs as we made our way along the trail. After a long day of exploring, we decided to take a break and stop at a quaint local cafe for a treat, and ice cream to cool off from the heat of the day. As we enjoyed our snacks, I suddenly felt an odd sensation, a strange, unexplainable feeling that gripped me. It wasn't just a fleeting discomfort or unease, but something far deeper, as though the very fabric of reality around me was beginning to warp and shift. The air felt different, and the world itself seemed to flicker, as if it was out of sync with my senses. I tried to shake off the feeling, but it only intensified. It was like a momentary tear in time, and I was caught right in the middle of it. Before I could fully comprehend what was happening, I found myself inexplicably separated from my family. They were no longer around me, and no matter how hard I called for them, my voice was swallowed by the strange, thick air. My mind raced. What was going on? Why was I so utterly alone? The familiar faces of my loved ones were nowhere to be seen, and everything around me had changed. I began to call out for help, but no one seemed to respond. The world around me felt foreign, like I had slipped into a parallel reality, a place where time and space no longer operated the way I knew them to. The colors of the landscape seemed off, and the people I saw around me, if they could even be called people, appeared to be from another time. There was this overwhelming sense of being trapped in this alternate reality, unable to break free, like a spider caught in its own web. I wandered, unsure of where I was or how to return to my reality. It felt like I had crossed over into a different world, one where everything was distorted. The usual sounds of the park, the rustling of the trees, the distant calls of birds, were replaced by an eerie silence. The landscape shifted unpredictably, and the air felt colder, heavier. I tried to make sense of it all, but the more I focused, the more off the feeling, but it only intensified. It was like a momentary tear in time, and I was caught right in the middle of it. Before I could fully comprehend what was happening, I found myself inexplicably separated from my family. They were no longer around me, and no matter how hard I called for them, my voice was swallowed by the strange, thick air. My mind raced. What was going on? Why was I so utterly alone? The familiar faces of my loved ones were nowhere to be seen, and everything around me had changed. I began to call out for help, but no one seemed to respond. The world around me felt foreign, like I had slipped into a parallel reality, a place where time and space no longer operated the way I knew them to. The colors of the landscape seemed off, and the people I saw around me, if they could even be called people, appeared to be from another time. There was this overwhelming sense of being trapped in this alternate reality, unable to break free, like a spider caught in its own web. I wandered, unsure of where I was or how to return to my reality. It felt like I had crossed over into a different world, one where everything was distorted. The usual sounds of the park, the rustling of the trees, the distant calls of birds, were replaced by an eerie silence. The landscape shifted unpredictably, and the air felt colder, heavier. I tried to make sense of it all, but the more I focused, the more disconnected I felt. My sense of time became distorted as well. It felt like I had been walking for hours, though I wasn't sure how much time had passed. And then, as quickly as it began, the bizarre experience ended. I suddenly found myself back in the familiar reality I had known before, the sounds of the cafe, the warmth of the sun on my face, and, most importantly, the presence of my family. I had returned to the place where everything made sense again, but the strange, unsettling feeling lingered. What had just happened? Had I really been transported to some other world? Or had I simply experienced some kind of mind-bending anomaly? My family, still blissfully unaware of what had transpired, greeted me with concern. I explained what I had felt, how I had been separated from them and the strange world I had found myself in. But no one could provide an explanation. It was as if I had briefly slipped through the cracks in time, into a place where reality was no longer constant. Later on, researchers would call what I experienced a time slip, an event where someone feels as though they've been transported into a different time or dimension, often with no clear explanation. They believe time slips happen due to fluctuations in the space-time continuum, a disruption in the very fabric of time and space itself. These anomalies can, in rare cases, cause people to experience time lapses or shifts in reality, where the past, present, and future collide in strange, unexpected ways. Apparently, such phenomena are particularly strong in places like Yosemite National Park, where the natural energy of the land and the park's unique geographical features seem to amplify the possibility of these occurrences. It's said that Yosemite's rugged terrain, the steep cliffs, deep valleys, and constant movement of the earth, create an environment where the fabric of time and space is more vulnerable to tearing. Some even believe that these fluctuations might allow people, creatures, or echoes from the past to briefly reappear in the present. Could it be that what I experienced was a glimpse into another time? A moment when Yosemite's past merged with its present? That question still lingers in my mind, and it's something that researchers, as well as others who've had similar experiences in the park, continue to ponder. The mystery of time slips in places like Yosemite continues to fascinate those drawn to the strange and unexplainable. Stories like mine serve as reminders that sometimes, the boundary between the known world and the unknown is thinner than we think. Could it be that moments like mine are just a glimpse of forces at play in the universe, forces beyond our understanding? Have you ever experienced something that felt out of place, something that made you question the very nature of reality? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories and theories. Stay tuned for more strange and mysterious tales from Yosemite National Park, and remember to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming weekly uploads. We focus on delivering paranormal stories. If you enjoy real paranormal stories, then we won't let you down. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown.